A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media. First of all, wishing you a Merry Christmas. And now about to bring you one of the weirdest fucking graphic novels I've ever read. There are two things that just go together. Bourbon and Coke. Whiskey and Coke. Coke and Pepsi. That last one, please don't try that. Anyway, I'm going to bring you a absolutely bonkers crossover graphic novel. We are talking Transformers and Back to the Future. This is exactly what you would expect and exactly what you would want. This is fun. This is pure and simple 80s nostalgia fun, and I absolutely fucking loved it. I do have some gripes with the book itself, which you will see coming up. But overall, if you can get your hands on this, it is well worth diving into the minutiae. Now, I am going to spoil pretty much everything because, hey, it's Christmas, and that's what I do at Christmas. I spoil things. So, with that said, let's just move right into the next episode of... Now, before we get started on this, I'm just going to say that I am incredibly pissed off with this book. Not for the story, not for the art, but because the fucking thing fell apart as I was reading it. The binding was absolute shite. But let's get straight into the fucking story of Transformers and Back to the Future. Okay. So we have our personnel here: Marty, Doc, Biff, George, and Lorraine. And the Autobots are Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, Gigawatt, Skills, and Rodimus Prime. Gigawatt and Skills are new Autobots. And the Decepticons: Megatron, Ravage, Soundwave, Starscream, Flame War, Rumble, Hook, Mixmaster, and Watchtower. So it starts at the Twin Pines Mall. Marty is being chased by the terrorists, as you can see. Look at that. I mean, the whole thing just comes off. It's fucking awful. Anyway, Marty's being chased by the terrorists, but they're being observed by two Decepticons. Those Decepticons are Rumble and Ravage. You might know them as Soundwave's little tape cassettes, or cassette tapes, I should say. They call into Megatron. Megatron has sent them on a mission to the Twin Pines Mall in Hill Valley, hoping to find a way to destroy the Autobots. So they witness Marty leaving in the DeLorean, traveling back, hitting 88 miles per hour and traveling back to 1955. And Soundwave realizes that it's an actual time machine. So Megatron is like, okay, what the fuck? This is how we're going to defeat the Autobots. Rumble sees Marty come back and the Doc being saved. And he wants to get his hands on it. So they track it down to Marty's house at the Lion Estates. Before Rumble can go after it, Bumblebee comes in and knocks him over. They get into a fight. And Optimus Prime is telling Bumblebee, listen, the humans can't actually know that you're Transformers. So eventually, Rumble and Ravage turn back into tapes. Bumblebee reverses over Ravage, destroying him. But Doc Brown finds Rumble as a tape and tells Marty, listen, I'm going into the future to 2015. And Marty's like, look me up when you get there. And the DeLorean heads off into the future. Marty goes home. Bumblebee assures Optimus Prime that nothing untoward has gone on. And then Marty just goes back to sleep, falls back to sleep in his bed. He's woken up by his father, George McFly, who says, "You're going to be late." You can see there's George, Lorraine, his sister and brother. And he realizes that something is terribly wrong. Hill Valley is now under the control of the Decepticons, and this is a work camp where they are harvesting energon cubes. Marty finds out that Biff is the overlord of this work camp, but the energon production is down. So Starscream comes, does a really cool, "Hello, anybody there? Think, human, think," just like Biff used to do with George McFly back in the Back to the Future films. Marty wants to fight back. He ends up throwing looks like a garbage can lid at Starscream, just like he did the Frisbee in Back to the Future 3. Starscream gets pissed off and chases him. He slips on a skateboard and he's like, "Wait a second, this is exactly what I need." And as Starscream is chasing him, he escapes using the skateboard. Only Starscream is kind of knocked out of the sky by a DeLorean. Marty thinks it's Doc, but the DeLorean ends up being a transformer called Gigawatt. And he is trying to basically save everyone. So Marty is kind of worried about Gigawatt and uses the skateboard to smack the robot. Gigawatt and Starscream have a fight, and Marty decides to help Gigawatt by throwing the skateboard at Starscream. As he throws it, the skateboard transforms into a new Autobot called Skills, and they end up managing to get into Gigawatt and escaping. Gigawatt takes them to the Delgado mine, which, if you remember, is the mine that Doc Brown hid the DeLorean in the film Back to the Future 3, back when he was in the Wild West days. I thought that was a nice kind of throwback. And here we see, this is where the Autobots are hiding out. And the leader of the Autobots is Rodimus Prime, who was Hot Rod in the Back to the Future, the Transformers animated movie. He became Rodimus Prime when Optimus Prime died in the battle with Megatron at the beginning of the film, so it's not a spoiler, of course. We find out that Gigawatt's mission failed because his flux capacitor is damaged, and Marty says only the Doc can fix the flux capacitor. Rodimus Prime is looking for the Doc because he believes it's the Doc's fault that all this has happened. And then we find out that when the Doc got to the future, Rumble revealed himself and befriended the Doc. The Doc was taken in by this. Doc Brown was taken in by this. And ultimately, Rumble betrayed the Doc and stole the DeLorean, bringing the DeLorean back to bringing Megatron there and trying to get the DeLorean back. And that is how everything kind of turned to shit. So Rodimus Prime basically wants the Gigawatt to go back in time and kind of fix everything, but he can't because his flux capacitor is all messed up. We find out at this point that Gigawatt is, in fact, a Decepticon who turned on Megatron after Megatron wanted to kill some innocent humans. And in his ensuing escape, Megatron blasted him, and that is why the flux capacitor is broken. At this point, the Constructicons are kind of forcing the work camp to work harder when one of the Constructicons is destroyed by a blast of energy, and we find out that it was destroyed by Doc Brown himself, with, of course, his trusty dog, Einstein. So the Constructicons are pissed off at Biff because Biff is supposed to be the leader of this work camp and one of them has been taken out. And they are about to kill Biff, but Biff manages to escape. In his escape, one of the Constructicons chases him down, but again is destroyed by Doc Brown. And George McFly calls Biff over and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Doc Brown, in the meantime, says, "I know there are Autobots still alive, so we've got to get a signal out to them, and that tower is the only way to get the signal out." Biff says, "Bad fucking idea, we're never going to make it." They reminisce a little about Marty when he used to skateboard, because they haven't seen him, he just vanished. And so they get on these hover sleds and they head over to the tower. They manage to get there, but there is a Constructicon that is closing in on them. Einstein decides to create a diversion, and they manage to get to the tower and they get the signal out. At this point, however, Biff destroys the signal tower because he's a fucking traitor. The Autobots are on their way. They got the signal. But by the time they get there, they can see that this is going to be an execution. We have Starscream and the Constructicons standing around Doc, George, and Marty's mother, Lorraine, and Biff in a new Transformers suit. And they're telling Biff that you've got to kill them. The Autobots are telling Marty, "Listen, you can't just run in there. You've got to have patience." But Marty's like, "No, fuck that." And he jumps in and stops Biff stops Biff's gun from going off. The Autobots attack the Decepticons. And Doc says, all right, in the middle of this heated battle, Doc is like, "Okay, I can fix the flux capacitor. It's fine." So they go for it. It's like an all-out brawl using Doc's energy gun. Skills transforms himself into a hoverboard from Back to the Future 2 using the schematics of the hover sled. And Marty kind of goes on the rampage, taking out the Constructicons while Starscream and Rodimus Prime do battle with each other. And ultimately, they are successful. However, they don't realize that the Watchtower is, in fact, a Decepticon. I thought this was fucking cool. I almost wish they hadn't put it at the beginning of the comic. So they're all fighting Watchtower, not doing any good against him. When Gigawatt basically says, "We've got a plan. You've got to go back in time." But Marty and Doc are about to die, and Gigawatt jumps into the line of fire, so he gets damaged. They get into Gigawatt. The flux capacitor at this point has been fixed, of course, and they're driving, but they can't go fast enough. They can't reach 88 miles per hour. So Doc and Skills devise a plan. While Rodimus Prime is trying to hold off Watchtower, he is ultimately destroyed. But Gigawatt starts to move with the help of Skills and Doc. That is basically pushing the car, trying to get it to 88 miles per hour. Marty's telling Doc to get in, but Doc is like, "This isn't my fight. You have to do this on your own." And when the DeLorean reaches 88 miles per hour, it travels through time, and Doc and Skills are left at the mercy of Watchtower. So we get to the past, and we have Rumble in the DeLorean driving it to Megatron when the second DeLorean, Gigawatt and Marty, smash into it and basically take out Rumble, but at this point they are where the Autobot ship had already crashed. Rumble shoots Gigawatt and smashes the ground to make his way into the ship. At this point, Biff has turned on Rumble. We find out that Biff was working for Rumble all along. Rumble had recruited him, but he's like, fuck that shit. He and Marty team up, but the gun doesn't work. Rumble tries to kill Biff, but Marty saves him. And Rumble falls down into the Autobots or the Transformers ship that had crash landed on Earth. Biff is being Biff, of course. But Rumble finds out that all of the Autobots have been awoken. He doesn't understand what's going on. This should be the Decepticons that are awoken first. And ultimately, he tries to make a deal, tries to escape, but Biff backs a truck full of Energon cubes onto Rumble, knocking him down and ultimately destroying him. Optimus Prime talks to Marty, who is lamenting the loss of Gigawatt, who has died from his injuries. Marty then discovers that they have fixed Gigawatt, and he goes back to 2015 and sees the doc and leaves Gigawatt with the doc because that is what Marty does. And the Autobots are very thankful. We can see that Biff is now working as the Autobots technician. And Doc takes Marty back to 1985 Hill Valley, where he sees George and Lorraine, just as we saw them at the end of Back to the Future. And he gives Marty a truck, just like we saw at the end of Back to the Future. But as Marty drives off, we see the Decepticon logo on the front of the truck. And then we have a little diatribe by Dr. Emmett Brown. The space-time continuum is full of infinite possibilities and alternate timelines. These include events and histories that could happen, have been erased from existence, or exist entirely as conjecture. How then do we classify this tale? For now, suffice to call it entertainment. As a physicist, I can speculate no further. And that's what this was, pure entertainment. Then we have some schematics, cover art. I like these ones. And that one's really cool as well. So apart from the pages that came out, which is very, very frustrating to me, but, you know, what can you do? This was fantastic. I had a thoroughly good time reading this. I love Transformers. I love Back to the Future. Can't believe anyone would fucking mash them together. But there you have the whole fucking story. If Transformers and Back to the Future, this should be a movie. This should be the next Transformers movie. Although I am excited for the Beast Wars kind of thing that's coming up. This should have been a fucking movie. This is mind-blowing. So there you have it. Transformers Back to the Future. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. But just follow Plaguelands Media. We've got new stuff coming out all the time. But most importantly, of course, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your Christmas Eve. And most importantly, read a fucking book, people.